Welcome to my Wellness Rewired, Hacking Women's Health. Join Larissa and Malerie as they explore biohacking tips for women based on the latest science and research available today. Let them help you unlock your best self. It's time to hack smarter, not harder, together.
Welcome. Today, we get to talk about a very interesting topic that I actually didn't know very much about. I hear it randomly here and there, but I really haven't actually understood it. And so today, we are going to talk about our experience with getting DEXA scans and how it is a foundational tool to help you better understand your body and move forward with your journey as far as making sure you're proactive and being the best you can be at our age, I guess, at any age, really.
Yeah.
And so it's very interesting. So we're going to talk about how to optimize it, how to understand a DEXA scan, what does it tell you? And then this has spurred our interest into reading Unbreakable by Dr. Vonda Wright. And it goes along with Good Energy and Age Like a Girl and, Dr. Stacey Sims, like all of those amazing women doctors that we look to for a lot of our baseline data. So it's great because they'll give us a baseline and we get to understand our body and what situations or what tools we need to adjust. No, what strategies we need to do to improve it.
Yeah, I would say strategies. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been fascinating because we've just wrapped up our strength era, and so we've been talking about the importance of building muscle, and that's kind of, I feel like, what really brought us to this conversation and to understanding, even for us to go and get DEXA scans, because it all ties together, right? Your muscular health ties to your bone health, and all of these things we're learning are critically important for women in our health, not just when we're older, but honestly, as we age through every single year, you can feel a difference about whether you're building your health or whether you're taking away from it. And so it all has just kind of been this perfect storm to get here, and we're super excited to talk about it. So let's talk about a couple of things that were interesting in our research of this, because I had always thought about osteoporosis being an issue that you don't have to worry about until you're a grandma, It's like, you always just put that off, put it out of your mind. I didn't want to think about it. It would never actually happen to me.
Yeah, you have many more years to worry about that.
Yes, yeah. But here's the reality, and this is why we're talking about it today. What we learned, this was the most eye-opening thing for me, is that most women reach their peak bone density between the ages of 25 and 30.
Wow.
Which is insane. Like, that is some very real information that everybody needs, because after that, it's all about maintenance. So the habits that you have in your 20s and 30s are really building like a bank account that your future self draws from. And that's an important clarification to make now for all of our listeners.
And then it just keeps getting better, because then when you get into perimenopause and menopause, then the acceleration just magnifies, right? Estrogen drops, leads to faster loss of bone density. And so what would we say in our strength training series? That like 3 to 5% per year of loss every decade.
Yeah, which could be up to like 30% through the perimenopause and menopausal transition, right?
Yeah. That is crazy amount. And so that was an eye-opener for me, because it made me realize that we really do need to be proactive about this every decade. Like every single year matters, just like we said at the bank. I love that analogy. Like we have to put in like deposits. So then when it gets into perimenopause and menopause and it starts, withdrawing it, we have a reserve to protect us.
Exactly. It's like a bone density retirement plan. Right. Like if you don't plan, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, guys.
So who would have guessed? Because I don't think the average person even understands what a DEXA scan is and how to prioritize it at all. I know I didn't. The only reason I even got it done was because of the challenge with Jenny Worth. Otherwise, I wouldn't have gotten it done. I mean, it was on our list to eventually get to, but who knows when we would have actually gotten to it.
Yeah, we both had wanted to do it, but it was not like a high priority yet. And for reference, the standard guidelines for getting a DEXA scan, which is like a low radiation, a tool that scans your whole body, and it's going to differentiate between how much of your total body mass is bone versus lean tissue versus body fat versus bone mass. And so the standard guideline is that you don't usually get it until you're like 65 is when it's
Wow.
medically suggested, right? And or if there's significant like specific risks, like genetic risks or things like that, you might do it sooner. And so we're coming at a DEXA scan from a completely different, like proactive biohacking, functional medicine approach that it's like, let's establish a baseline. Let's understand our bodies on a whole other level. And then we can work from there, right? Which is what Jenny talked about when we interviewed her. It's just that's the best way to identify if you're gaining muscle, if you're losing fat. Like the scale's not going to tell you those things necessarily. So
Yeah, it has definitely been an eye opener. So I have gotten 2 done now. I had my first one, and then a couple of months later, I got my second one, and so I'm very excited to share those results. But it definitely doing this research has changed me forever because 1 in 2 women over 50 will experience an osteoporosis related fractures. Over a half of Caucasian women 50 years and older have low bone mass, but it starts earlier for so many of us.
I know that's insane. That's such a 1 in 2 women over 50. But I mean, think about the women in our life, like as they've aged, our grandmothers and things, all of them have had an osteoporosis related fracture. You know what I mean? And so that really drives home. This is an issue that affects not only us, but all the other women in our life, right? But it's something that this is something we can do something about. And I love that fact. So
Well, in one of the episodes, you said I can't remember what episode it was, but you said something like, when it's a problem when you fall, and people instead of laughing about your fall, then you're like, oh, are you okay? And that stuck in my head, and now that's what I think about. I want to build my muscle and my bone mass up because I don't want people to be scared yet that like I felt like, oh no, are you hurt? No, I want it to be funny. I want people to laugh at me when I fall.
yep.
I do not want it to be like I don't want to be this fragile person that's like, oh no, she fell. Did she break something?
Seriously, it started out as a joke. It's like, you're old when people stop laughing when you fall over and start to be concerned. You're
Yes,
like,
yes.
oh, that's funny. Oh, no, that's kind of sad.
It hit right to the core of me, and I was like, "Man, that's too close to reality," the older we get, the more
Yes.
I'm like, "I don't wanna be that." So, that has prioritized my motivation to continue to build muscle and focus on my bone density just purely for that joke alone.
Yeah, nope, I totally agree that it's like some of those things stick with you and it's like, you're like, I don't want to be that person. And we need to find the things that make sure we don't become that person. So let's just segue that right now and talk about why this matters to women, because there's a lot of now benefits that we don't even think about. Like we think about, okay, a bank account for our retirement, which is important, but also stronger bones equal better performance in your everyday life. We're talking about workouts, your daily life, chasing your kids, chasing your goals, your body recomposition even. And so these are all things that could be beneficial to you now and be setting you up for your future. When we're talking about supporting your balance, having more power, and just feeling more capable, all of these things come with stronger bones.
And then it helps you build your reserve. Again, for what we said earlier, for perimenopause. As perimenopause ramps up, you really want to build your reserves, especially for our younger
Oh, yeah.
listeners in our 20s, like irregular cycles, overtraining, restrictive eating, postpartum, or birth control can all affect our bones earlier on as you're developing. So you really have to understand that you're in the time of building. So you really have to make sure you understand what consequence your different choices are having on your bones.
This is a very real thing. And I feel like overtraining and overworking, because we're all just trying to fit into a man's cycle when it comes to our careers, when it comes to just the way that we address life. Anytime we feel like we're struggling, we're like, too bad, suck it up, stop being weak. We're really critical of ourselves and we push too hard. And honestly, this kind of stress on your body really can affect your bone density, which is something that I don't think I ever understood. And the other thing is postpartum. That's a huge one. If you are having a baby, if you are breastfeeding, these things can significantly impact your bone density as well, because if you don't have enough to provide for your baby, your body will take it from yourself. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
you can recover afterwards. So most women, I believe the statistic is that most women lose bone density during breastfeeding, but you can recover that postpartum but you have to know what's happening, right?
Because you don't even, yeah, because if you're not aware it's happening, you can't overcompensate, and rebuild it later, after you're done with breastfeeding.
Which is yet another reason why so many women just feel like they're not themselves after they have kids and they feel like they've sacrificed a lot of their body. They probably have, and understanding why and that you can compensate and repair is huge to feeling like yourself again.
Yeah, that is very interesting. That's a really good point to make.
Yeah. I wish I would have known when I was having babies because I mean, now like I have a 3-year-old. So I'm like, okay, at least now I understand why I felt the way that I did and why I struggled so much. And I can do something about it now. Man, to know this in my 20s, oh, would have been amazing.
I agree. But I think I know when I was in my 20s, I felt like I was invincible and I was like, oh, nothing's going to stop me. I can do it. You know what I mean? So you don't
Oh, yeah.
really, you're not into researching, you're not into these, I don't want to say old lady problems, but quote unquote old lady problems. But
Yeah.
really, the foundation begins when you're youth. So really, we need to be, but not very many of us are or were.
Well, I mean, it just comes back to being preventative or proactive versus reactive. There is so much benefit to being proactive about this because if you have a good system in place, you're building yourself up to have such a great reserve that, perimenopause and menopause can be something that's a blip. Like
Yeah.
that is possible. We've talked to many women who that has been the experience for them. And it just takes better systems in your youth. So
Yeah. When I got my DEXA scan, it was interesting. Like I got it in for Jenny's challenge, right? So she wanted everybody to take a before and an after. Because just like what she said on her strength podcast, the scale doesn't really tell you what it is on the inside. So the DEXA scan, first of all, gives you these images of your outline of your body with like your like fat content, your lean
your
content, your
body
skeletal
shape.
content, your body shape. And I was like, that's what my body looks like. And I was like, oh, that was a shocker because, in my mind, I visioned certain things. And I was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
to just see it on that scan, I was like, ooh, like my rolls were all there. Like everything was there
Yep.
in all of its glory, in colored glory. So, the fat was red, whatever and stuff. So that was shocking. So then when I got my 4 months later, I got my second DEXA scan, and I made great progress. I'm going to say I made great progress, but my first response to Mallory was it wasn't what I had hoped for because I still can visualize the image of all my rolls, and I wanted it to be less rolly. And it
Yep.
was slightly, but I was expecting more of a dramatic, when after you've lost 20 pounds, I expected it to be more dramatic.
Yep.
So that was an eye opener. But again, if you look at the numbers, so my fat content in just 4 months went down 5% overall, like my whole body. My total mass, my fat mass went down 11.2 pounds. So that's
Yeah.
great because that's exactly what you want. That I want the fat mass to go down. My lean mass, which is my muscle, went up 2 pounds. So I
That's so
lost
great.
11 pounds of fat and then I gained 2 pounds of muscle. And so it was great. Like, and when you get a
And what
DEXA
was the
scan,
timeline between those 2?
4 months.
So 4 months between your DEXA scans, you lost 11 pounds of fat mass and you gained 2 pounds of lean tissue, AKA muscle. That's huge.
I know that's what I'm saying. It was a huge success, but visually on the images,
It didn't look like
I was
it.
stuck. Yeah, I was stuck. I was like, really, that's still what I look like,
Yeah.
But again, if I'm going to do Jenny's challenge again, and it more just refocuses me on a healthy lifestyle, right? Like that's
Yeah.
really what it does. But when you get a DEXA scan, it's really critical to remember your comparison point when you get a DEXA scan is with all the women within a certain range that is getting done by that company.
Right.
So it is not nationwide. It's not like it's a huge network where you're comparing all the women in the United States. You're only like I live in Southern California. So my percentages are compared to all of the women in Southern California getting DEXA scans with this company. So
Oh.
that is a huge thing to remember because you don't know that. In Southern California, I'm getting compared against 47,000 other women in the ranges of 43 to 49.
Right.
So then on it, it tells you, it will give you a scale, green is good, red is bad, and yellow is in the middle. So it'll tell you, like by bone density, I'm 89% compared to the women in that age range.
So you're
My
in the
this
89th percentile,
Yeah,
right?
thank you. I'm in the
Yes.
89 percentile with that. And then with my body fat, I'm at 39%. So I still have high body fat compared to most of the women who are getting DEXA scans. And then most of the women who are getting DEXA scans are usually health bodybuilders or into health in general. So that's
Yep.
another thing you have to think about when you get it done. So it is just a tool to use to give yourself a starting point and then to compare. And as with anything, always compare it with yourself. I really wouldn't compare it with the rest of whoever is getting body scans. I'd really compare it for yourself because you'll know if you focus on it, you'll see your own numbers improve. And that's what everybody wants, right? Is your numbers to improve.
Absolutely. And I think the way to approach a DEXA scan, I think it's worth it for every woman to get it because if anything, it's going to give you a baseline of where you are right now, how your muscle mass looks, how your bone density looks, how your fat mass looks, and then you have that baseline so that even if you don't worry about it again for 10 years and then something medical comes up, you have to go in and there's an issue, you can say, this is what my baseline used to be at this time. This was my lifestyle at this time, right? And so it just gives you information that could be critical even in 20 or 30 years. Who even knows, right? But the other thing is that it's like the continuous glucose monitor. That has been so life-changing for understanding what's going on inside my body. I know how my body's responding to food. I know what's triggering a lot of my mood swings and my lack of capacity, emotional capacity, like all of these things that I had been attributing to maybe hormones or something like that actually ended up being my blood sugar. So it's the same thing with the DEXA scan where it's going to tell you a lot of what's going on inside your body. And if you're doing them consistently, I'll probably do mine twice a year. Although I might do it more working with Worth It Fitness with Jenny because she wants us to do that to be able to see the progress that we make working with her. But it's going to tell me what's going on inside my body and it's going to give me so much more realistic um, a more realistic view of the progress of the work, you know what I mean, of what I've been able to accomplish.
Well, I think it's a direct reflection of your lifestyle. Like if you really do change your habits and reflect on your lifestyle and how to improve these certain areas, it will show it on there. And so that's like a big kudos to yourself. You're like, wow, this really is making a difference. It may not look like it on the scale, but it is making a big difference internally because it also tells you your visceral fat, like the fat around your organs, because you
Yep.
can be skinny fat, like what Jenny was saying, you can be skinny fat and have all sorts of fat on the inside around your organs, which is the worst place to have it. So there's
Yep.
lots of options. So it gives you a lot of information. I think it's great. And I do agree with you, Mallory. I do think that I wanted to get it. I would probably get it twice a year, maybe 3 times a year, depending on
Ideally,
what you're
right?
working on, right? Like right now, we're in the process of actually implementing all these things that we're talking about. So we want to see if it's working. So it is kind of nice to see it. But once you get to a point where you're maintaining and you're comfortable with your lifestyle, then it probably is not as needed as often.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that for me, we're doing a big, like, let's build some muscle. Let's reduce our body fat. Let's, do all these things. And we're using all of these tools that we're researching. So we're going to do it more often because we want to see what is working. But you're right. Like if I was in the best shape of my life and I was humming along and I felt like I was settled into the lifestyle that was going to serve me, I wouldn't do it as often because you just don't need to, right?
Yeah. That's our
That
goal.
is
So I'll get there.
someday. This time next year,
Crossing my
Larissa.
fingers.
Oh, yeah, no joke. So anyway, I think this is again another tool that I feel like has been surprisingly informational and necessary. And I love when we find those. So, um, price range, do we want to talk about that a little bit? You were able to find a company that did it for what, $50 a scan?
We did, but I did it through Body Spec, and it's all over California. Actually, all over, but in random spots. We'll include it in the show notes. But so
Yes.
it was great. I can get it done almost anywhere at any time, and it only cost me $50 a scan.
That's fantastic. I had to buy a pack with a fitness DEXA scan. They do VO2 max testing, like a lot of different things here in Kansas City. And I bought a pack of 4 and I was able to get it for $100 per scan. And so when I did the package deal, so slightly more expensive here, I am reaching out to that company though, because it would be really great because they do travel to cities and they'll partner with like community centers and things like that to make it available to communities. So it's really cool that they do that too. So a little research required, but typically most cities have options.
Yeah.
And totally worth finding out. And I think that that is one of the things that requires a little bit of an investment that is 100% worth it.
Yeah. Because you don't do it that often.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to do a Bone Smart Hacks rapid fire today, which is where we're just going to rapid fire at you guys the things. These are like simple swaps, additions that you can make, things that you can do that can help with your bone health. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, number 1, lift heavy or progressively heavier. Heavy resistance training is one of the best signals for bones to stay dense. You focus on compound moves like squats, deadlifts, rows, presses. Start where you are and build.
All right. 2, add short impact bursts, which I'm horrible about this. So this is definitely something I'm going to have to add. So add short impact bursts, just 3 to 5 minutes of targeted jumps, like jump, jump, rest, repeat. Research says a few times a week can boost hip and spine density. And think hopping in place or a low box jump, skipping, or even hopscotch. I'm a teacher. So when you're playing hopscotch at recess with the kids, like that is actually building your bone density. So super efficient.
Yes, and then hit your protein target daily. Okay, protein is huge. We're talking about a gram of protein per pound of body weight to support bone matrix and muscle that pulls on the bones because your muscle mass and your bone density are interconnected. Spread it across your meals, and we've talked about this at length, so it still applies.
Load up on bone nutrients. Prioritize vitamin D, which you can get from the sun. And then if you need additional things, because if you get your blood work done, you'll know more specifically what you need. But
Yep.
for sure, sun, and then eat food with vitamin D in it, and then take your supplements with vitamin D. If you marry that with K2, it will help pair better for absorption. Magnesium will help. Calcium-rich foods will help, and it ties perfectly to our metabolic and good energy focus.
Yes, love it. Okay, number 5, ruck or weighted walks. Woohoo! This is our favorite one.
Woo, woo.
Add a backpack. Okay, add a backpack or vest for loaded walks. This combines weight bearing with cardio. Great for your hips and overall strength without all the fancy equipment.
All right, number 6, sprint or power intervals. Short bursts of high effort, like 20, 30-second sprints or fast stairs, create a ground reaction force that bones love. So it is painful. Not painful. For me, it's painful. It's painful, but it's so important for your bones. Your bones love it. And then you can cycle sync them for extra wins.
Absolutely. And finally, number 7, consistency over perfection. Even small daily habits, heel drops, stair climbing, carrying heavy groceries like weights add up, and bones respond to regular loading, not occasional big efforts. That's key.
So you're not too young to start thinking about this. Now is actually the smartest time. A baseline DEXA scan can be a valuable data point if it fits into your situation. Talk to your provider, see if they can give it for you. I actually didn't think about doing that, and I should have. I was just wanted to get it done, and it was only $50. So I was like, yeah, I'll
Oh, yeah.
get it done. But your provider will probably do it for you.
They
So
could
focus
if
on,
you ask. It's worth asking, right?
yeah, you never know until you ask.
Yep.
Focus on habits that make you feel strong and energized today, and then share your experiences or your questions with us. My Wellness Rewired Facebook community, we could have a whole chat about it. So it is very empowering. This is meant to empower you. Women are amazing and our bodies are amazing. We just have to understand it so we can tweak it and adjust it to be the best it can be. We're all about hacking women's health. So if you feel unstoppable at every age, start building those unbreakable habits now, and let us know what you're excited to try.
Yes. And remember, ladies, our mission is simple to help you truly know your body and take ownership of your own health, one biohack at a time. Our own health curveballs have pushed us deep into this journey, and what we have learned has changed everything for us. So now we're here to share with as many women as possible. So if this episode lit a spark for you, please like, subscribe. If it made you think of an incredible woman in your life, please share it and bring some real health inspiration to the women in your life.
Hit like and we'll give you hands.
Yay! Spread the word, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode.
One in two women over 50 will experience an osteoporosis. How do you say that?
Osteoporosis related.
Will experience osteoporosis related. Is that right?
That was right, but maybe not so hesitant.
1 in 2 women over 50 will experience osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis.
Osteoporosis. 1 in 2 women over 50 will experience osteoporosis.
You were close.
And number 4, load up on bone nutrients. Prioritize vitamin D, which is sun plus supplement or food supplements, or actually supplements. Now let me try that again. There's gonna be a lot of bloopers on this one for me.
All right, you're gonna have a lot to work with. All right, you wellness rock stars. That's a wrap on this episode of My Wellness Rewired, Hacking Women's Health. We've had a blast dishing out the hacks and laughs, but hold up, let's keep it real.
Yep, we are not doctors. We are just sharing our biohacking adventures and learning right alongside you. Nothing we say is medical advice, so always, always check with your healthcare provider before trying any new wellness tricks.
Absolutely. This podcast is all about inspiration and entertainment, not prescriptions. So join our Facebook group for more sassy wellness vibes. Catch you next time.